Robert Key runs his charity like he did his businesses, very successfully. At 64, he's more driven than ever.
I think it's very sad to retire and just watch DVD, you know. I mean, you must have this passion. Keep you going, you know. Challenges is what keeps us alive.
And is wary of being exploited in his new world.
So whenever they hear the word NGO, in many countries it means rich uncle. We have to get rid of that rich uncle syndrome.
He's taking the charity world by storm and is only getting started. In one of the poorest districts in Cambodia lies Hope Village, an orphanage set up by Singaporean businessman Robert Key. More used to growing and managing successful companies, he now spends his time entertaining the children that he is now grandfather to.
I love children, and I still remember December 26, 1994, I saw the program Inside Asia on child prostitution in Cambodia. And there's a village called Sui Pak, where in the program, when you walk along the village, you can see young children as young as 6, 7, 8 years old with painted lips and all that, and you can just buy them. And I'm always the children kind of guy, you know. I'm an amateur magician, and in my family, I'm always the jovial uncle, you know. All my niece and nephew they always love me. I'm the one with the jokes and with the magic. So I love children. So I decided that, well, this is something that I like to do.
Robert has one grandson of his own, but thanks to the orphanage, he is now grandfather to 115 Cambodian children in Pre Vang.
The boy is 10 years old and
Today, he's bringing 2 new children to the orphanage. Village elders feared their lives were in danger. The journey to retrieve them is long. He crosses the province along its many dirt roads, and then with Lin, his assistant, walks 5 kilometers in the midday sun to get them.
Yeah, I think we in Singaporeans, we are not so much to the walking, but I think we are very used to air conditioning. So walking in the hot sun like that reminds me of my days in national service. I'm over 64 years old, so I can't imagine if I had to carry on this for another 10 years, I'll be 75 years old and still trekking in the village. Wow, tough. Where's the house? Hello, boys, girls. How are you? So glad to see me. Where's the mother?
Markira and Kim Siang are half-siblings. Their mother, Piak Vani, divorced both their fathers. Her third husband proved to be the worst of the 3. He'd get drunk and beat his wife, who then in turn beat her children. Her husband was finally arrested and is now in prison. Village elders were alerted, and worried about the safety of the children, they called Robert's staff and asked them to take the children to safety.
ភ័យខ្លាចដែរបែបហ្នឹងធ្វើម៉េចជីវិតរបស់ខ្ញុំគុំសតតាំងពីនៅតូចតាំងពីម៉ែឲ្យស្លាប់ចោលអស់នៅម្នាក់ឯងពីរនាក់យាយដល់ឥឡូវយាយក៏ស្លាប់អស់ទៀតនៅ3នាក់ម៉ែកូនហ្មងបាក់ចិត្តពេកចា
Operation Hope chooses the poorest of the poor to live at his orphanage, housing around 100 children at any one time.
In this case, one of the relatives came and informed our staff, and they will send me the photos and the history of the mother and all that. And then once I approve, we will accept the children. So we have quite strict rules to see who we admit. Actually, this child recruitment going to the village is not done by most organizations. Most child sponsorship, the child continues to live in the village. And that is what I can't understand. How can you help the child if they continue to live in the village, you know, rather than in the well-equipped orphanage. Just tell her when they come to orphanage, we will give them more clothes. Yeah, we'll give them slippers and shoes. Do they have slippers? No slippers. Okay, we'll give them slippers and shoes. I'm quite worried. What happens if the husband come out of prison? I think he will be furious. So, I think this is why we want to take the children. And I think by taking the children away, maybe the mother can go to Phnom Penh and work somewhere else and escape from the husband. I think that's also a good solution.
But it's never easy to break up a family.
Well, it's very sad, you know. I mean, it's always good for children to remain with their mothers. I mean, that's always the ideal situation. But very often, you know, for the sake of the children, it is better that they leave. You know, then when they come to orphanage, they have better education, better food. And who knows, you know, when they grow up, they earn more money, they can come back and help the mother in their old age. You see, we must also think of what happens when the mother is old and she can't work. And they need the children to look after them. So it's also good that when the children are working and they're able to earn better money, they can come back and look after the mother.
It won't be easy for Piek Vani. In this deserted part of Pre Veng, with no neighbors in sight and no children for company, the days will be long, but the nights longer still. Will the children manage without her? Was this the right choice for them? Singaporean Robert Key runs a charity called Operation Hope Foundation in Cambodia. He's taking 2 children who are being abused at home back to his orphanage. But what drives him to work so hard well into his 60s?
I have friends who have retired. I'm 64 years old. And I said, what do you do? Watch DVD. Oh, I said, I think it's very sad to retire and just watch DVD, you know? I mean, you must have this passion. Keep you going, you know? Challenges is what keeps us alive. We must have challenges. I mean, why retire with 0 challenge? You know, and all become like monkeys, entertaining grandchildren. I mean, I have my grandchildren. I love my grandchildren, but I cannot spend, I don't want to be 100 full-time monkey, you know, all the time, you know.
He brings Markera and Kim Siang to the Hope Village Orphanage. The staff try their best to make them feel at home, but they are overwhelmed by the newfound attention.
Village children are not used to such a structured environment. But if after 1 year, 2 years, they'll get used to it. But if the first few months is a struggle for them. So if you take those who are not so poor, they say, no, I don't want this structure. I want to go home. But the poor one, they will, you know, there's no alternative of going back. So they will go through the first few months and then they get used to it. And then they will never go home.
Pre Veng is the second poorest province in Cambodia, which is why Robert decided to set up his charity here. Most people are rice farmers, and many have barely enough paddy to make ends meet. Worse still, for 6 months of the year, it doesn't rain. Without paddy to grow and harvest, the farmers migrate to find work, and others have to go to Phnom Penh to find employment. So along with his orphanage, Robert also runs a training center that encourages entrepreneurship, training up to 40 young people a year. Here, he set up a bakery and a soap-making unit so that he could equip these children for the future.
Yes, I think Many of the children, they've been with me 10 years, 9 years, you know, so I'm the real grandfather to them. So it's really very difficult to plan for the future. So it is very difficult, and that's why we want to provide as much training as possible and so that they can get a job. So far, the first 3 batches, they are able to get jobs, you know. But beside this skills training, we also want them to do business. That's why we have the bakery and the polymer clay and the soap. So hope that they can start their own small business back in their hometown. The variety of children, some are not so good in studies, you know, and the range is very wide. I mean, imagine we have 1 to 3 children at home. Here I got 115 grandchildren, you know, so it's not easy.
Chon Nam was one of the first children who entered the orphanage a decade ago and now works for him in the soap factory.
I think that his heart very kind. He ran the orphanage, so now I learn the skill. In future, I want to be a hotel management. If without the orphanage, maybe I don't know how bad of my life. I cannot study, and I need to work to support my life.
Operation Hope also pays for young adults to follow a 3-month computer skills course, where they are provided with boarding and lodging. But Cambodians aren't used to charity.
The first time we went around, nobody believed us. You know, nobody believed us, and we had to work very hard to get 26 students. They can't believe, why free? And a lot of rumors said, no, it's not free. You know, they will ask you for money later on. It cannot be free. In our first course, we have one of the students, he was the best student, Richard, in computers. So we decided to employ him as our instructor. And I think this is one of the good things of running a training program like that, is that we can take the cream of the crop to come and work for us.
Given his background as a successful businessman, Robert Key runs Operation Hope with the same mindset, holding tightly to the reins.
I'm an entrepreneur. I run my own business for decades, you know. And as an entrepreneur, the buck stopped with me, because if I don't control money in my company, you know, it's my money that will be lost. So we have the DNA of an entrepreneur, where cost control is very important. So whenever they hear the word NGO, in many countries it means rich uncle. So we have to get rid of that rich uncle syndrome. But you need people who are very conscious of money, you know.
One of the very simple tools he uses to help keep control of expenditure and wipe out the mismanagement of funds is a weighing scale.
In 16 years, I've been to many orphanages, Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, Laos, Nepal, even Cambodia. I have never seen a weighing machine in a kitchen. So I always tell people, go to the kitchen and ask for a weighing machine. If there's no weighing machine, then that orphanage cannot be properly managed. Because if you don't weigh, how do you know how much food you are buying? How do you know that you buy 20 kilos of chicken, that you are buying 20 kilos of chicken? Dry food, wet food, gas, firewood, electricity, transport, diesel. Right? So when you have all this data, you must learn to look at the ratio. I feel that when a donor donates to me, you know, I must use that money very well. I have a consumption report where I track electricity usage, diesel usage, dry food, wet food, you know, and then I do analysis, comparison, and ratios, yeah, and then I query them. And you really have to drill down to this, and so they know that someone is watching, and now they got the habit of being frugal.
Just under 24 hours since their rescue, Markera and his sister are making rapid progress. At home, they owned only one set of clothes. Now they have new clothes and shoes, and Kim Siang even has a new haircut.
The child live in the village, get beaten by a drunken mother, and have, you know, really no future. And look at this little girl, she comes here. I'm amazed. This is a girl who had never seen a computer in her life, 7 years old, a village girl, never touched computer, and we gave her the game Super Mario Bros. and she's able to hit the keyboard because the program have alphabets moving across the screen. So imagine, you know, I think she's very bright and intelligent, and I really see she would have a great future after staying here.
But life in the orphanage has not been without its tragedy. Last year, an 8-year-old boy, Kiya, joined the orphanage. He seemed in good health.
He wasn't sick, he had his dinner, and then at midnight, my staff banged on my door, you know, and I woke up with a shock, you know. He really banged on my door, Narin, bong, bong, bong. He said, oh, the boy is in coma. I said, what happened? So we rushed him to the hospital here, you know. But by the time we managed to wake up a doctor, he was dead. And we don't really know why he died. Nobody asked to do an autopsy, but they say that it could be dengue. So there's something called dengue shock syndrome, where you don't have the symptoms of dengue and you can die suddenly. So, well, it was very traumatic. All the children, everybody wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and everybody was crying. And yeah, we were all quite traumatized. So I think from the responsibility side, we feel very bad that the grandmother left the grandson to us and then the boy died.
But Markera and his sister are very much alive, and by the looks of things, thriving without their mother. Unbeknownst to them, their mother is coming to visit tomorrow. Will she bring them pleasure or pain? Markera and his sister Kim Siang were brought to Operation Hope's orphanage by Robert Key just 3 days ago. They were being physically abused by both their mother and stepfather. And though sad to leave their home, they seem to have found friends and settled into life at the orphanage very quickly. Today, however, P. Vani, their mother, is making a surprise visit. But she has been drinking.
Mìnhនឹកស្មានថាបានមកឃើញកន្លែងនឹងគួរចង់រស់នៅយ៉ាងហ្នឹងសូម្បីគាត់ថាខ្ញុំមកឃើញកន្លែងនេះខ្ញុំមិនចង់ទៅផ្ទះវិញទេនេះមានអារម្មណ៍ថាចិត្តថានឹកវាធ្លាប់នៅធ្លាប់អោបងាកមកខាងនេះអោបងាកទៅខាងនេះអោបវាណាដល់ពេលបាត់ទៅងាកទៅឃើញអាខ្នើយ
The children seem far from happy to see her.
ដូចមានអារម្មណ៍ថាបបួលវាទៅផ្ទះវិញវាថាវាមិនចាំវាអត់ទៅអូជឿទៅណា
It's this is almost like paradise. So it's very hard for them to want to follow the mother back, you know. I mean, we can't say that they don't love the mother, but going back is real hardship. And they could see that they prefer to stay here. So it's quite common.
ស៊ូទ្រាំឲ្យដើម្បីតែកូនចេះកូនមានចំណេះវិជ្ជាទៅថ្ងៃក្រោយទៀតព្រោះយើងមិនដឹងមានអ្វីចាចវាទេមានចំណេះវិជ្ជាចាចវា
Okay. Bye bye.
It's time to say their second goodbyes in almost as many days. This time, not a tear is shed by anyone. Perhaps even relief for all.
Okay, bye already, yeah?
But keeping Operation Hope running takes dedication. The orphanage costs nearly $10,000 a month to run. The training center $500 per student. And that's not including the money they sunk into buying the land or fixing the leaky roof. Nearly $500,000. How does he raise these funds?
We never had a fundraiser. Till today, we never have a fundraiser. It's through word of mouth and through our website. And very strange, I don't have a large, big donor, but every time I need a large sum of money, someone will appear and give me the money. And I don't know them.
But But Robert advises donors not to give money blindly.
Owners should ask them how they should do it, because what you're going to do is very different from how are you going to do it. And just because perhaps a celebrity or someone raised a lot of money and say they want to help the poor or whatnot, you know, but we never ask, how are they going to do it?
Robert believes in third world problems being solved by first world scientists. And with his background in engineering, he's using his passion to help alleviate poverty further, in a mad scientist kind of way.
Well, this is a solar cooker, and we are using the heat of the sun to cook. And we find that it works, provided the sun is always there. But unfortunately, you have clouds. And when the clouds come, it doesn't cook. So one of the problems we are finding is that we have to retain the heat in some ways. And we have come up with a thermal pot design. I'll bring it over to you. So this is basically a double layer pot, and the layer will be filled with a material called a phase change material. It is solid, and when it's heated, it will become liquid. And when the temperature cools, it will become solid again and will give out heat. So what we're doing is we're combining the solar cooker with the phase change material. So there are two things. It's a thermal pot cum solar cooker.
Though Cambodia keeps him busy, Robert is also expanding Operation Hope across Asia, acquiring land in Thailand and Nepal. He bought 360,000 square feet of land in Pokhara, Nepal, where Robert wants to build a hotel on site so that the orphanage can be self-sufficient.
When you see the difference you're making, I think that's what keeps you going. Like going down to the village, seeing how poor they are, bringing the very poor children back to Hope Village and seeing them 2, 3, 5 years later, how they have changed, how they have transformed. You can see from the faces that they are very appreciative of what we have done for them.
But with so much left to do, this 64-year-old Singaporean is only just getting started.